These individuals are Katya, who is 14 years old, and Lena, who is 17 years old. They spent a total of 4 years in an underground bunker, enduring unimaginable suffering at the hands of Viktor Mokov. The discovery of a hidden bunker in western Russia left the police in shock. Inside, they found 2 young girls who had been confined underground for an extended period of time. The girls appeared utterly exhausted and aged beyond their years. To make matters worse, one of them was 8 months pregnant. Their physical condition was severely deteriorated due to the lack of sunlight and proper nutrition in the cramped bunker. Additionally, they were subjected to daily abuse by a man who used their bodies for his own pleasure. The torment they endured was nothing short of a living nightmare. When the girls were finally rescued from the bunker, it took them a while to comprehend that they were finally free. Once they regained their senses, they bravely shared their harrowing story. Years later, Katya Martinova, one of the girls, wrote a book detailing the horrific experiences they endured in the bunker. The contents of her book are so disturbing that they have the power to shock even the most hardened individuals. This tragic tale began in September 2000 when 14-year-old Katya Martinova innocently attended her first disco. She was a young girl who still played with dolls and led a typical life, growing up in the small city of Ryazan in western Russia. Her family was content and prosperous, unaware of any troubles. This blissful ignorance made Katya vulnerable to the existence of evil individuals who could inflict pain and suffering upon her. Despite her young age, Katya, like many teenagers, yearned to appear more mature. Thus, she eagerly accepted her friend's invitation to the disco. Lena Samokina, who was 17 years old, happened to be her sister's closest friend. They had planned to attend the disco together, but since her sister was absent, Katya made the decision to go in her place. She refrained from disclosing her exact destination to her parents. Instead, she simply mentioned that she was going for a leisurely stroll. The young schoolgirl was filled with excitement as she attended her first ever adult disco. However, when 10 p.m. struck, it was time for the girls to return home. During that era, mobile phones were not yet prevalent, making it impossible for the girls to inform their parents of their whereabouts or request a ride. Consequently, they had no choice but to rely on public transportation to make their way home. Unfortunately, boarding the city trolley bus proved to be a challenge due to the throngs of people also attempting to return after the festivities. In that moment, a car pulled up beside the girls. Inside were 2 men who kindly offered them a ride home. 17-year-old Lena agreed, eager to reach home swiftly. Katya, following her lead, made the same decision. Little did they know that this impulsive act would lead to dire consequences for both girls. They entered the car and provided their address, unaware that they would not be making it home that evening. From that moment on, their lives would never be the same. The driver, an elderly man named Viktor, remained mostly silent throughout the journey. Accompanying him was a young man named Losha, who introduced himself to the girls. The men suggested stopping by a store to purchase chocolates, engaging in light-hearted banter that did not raise any suspicions among the girls. The car came to a halt, and Losha entered the store to retrieve chocolates and a bottle of alcohol for the girls. They were offered a drink, to which they agreed. However, the 14-year-old Katya struggled after consuming alcohol for the first time, causing her to choke. Concerned for her well-being, she was given a bottle of water. The car resumed its journey, and it was at this moment that both Katya and Lena began to feel weak and fatigued. Suddenly, Viktor announced that he needed to visit his sister. The girls, lacking the strength to resist, were unable to object. It was only later that they would come to realize that the men had drugged their drinks with sleeping pills, enabling them to carry out their sinister plan. The car arrived at a dubious location, where Losha escorted the semi-conscious Katya out of the vehicle and into a garage. Then Viktor arrived at the location and demanded that she remove her clothing. The girl initially refused, but Viktor resorted to threatening her with the release of his dogs. Under the influence of drugs, Katya was unable to resist and reluctantly agreed. In a grimy garage, Victor became her first sexual partner on a filthy mattress. Following this, he coerced her into entering the basement where she discovered a cramped bunker. Initially, she believed that Victor would release her the next day and had no idea that this bunker would become her home for the next 4 years. Meanwhile, her friend Lena was sleeping peacefully, unaware that the same fate awaited her. Lena woke up the next morning, disoriented from sleeping pills, only to be brought to the bunker by Victor to reunite with her friend. Lena attempted to dress Katya in order to escape this horrific place, but Victor locked them inside, disregarding their pleas for help. The maniac periodically visited, providing them with minimal sustenance and making empty promises of their eventual release. However, as the days turned into years, they realized they were trapped in this nightmarish situation. For 14-year-old Katya and 17-year-old Lena, their lives descended into a living hell. Victor would summon them individually to another small room adjacent to the main one, where he would commit heinous acts on a red cotton blanket. Initially, the girls resisted, refusing to succumb to his demands. In response, Victor would cut off their access to light and threaten to block the ventilation, leaving them feeling as though they were buried alive. On another occasion, he brandished a knife and struck Lena with a hose, causing her distress. Witnessing her friend's suffering, he then took Katya to the next room, where he satisfied his desires on a red blanket. The girls were too weak to fight back, having recovered from the effects of sleeping pills only to be weakened by malnutrition and lack of oxygen in the underground confinement. Victor provided them with meager amounts of food and water, and the bunker lacked basic amenities such as sewage and running water. The young women were forced to utilize a small bucket as a makeshift toilet, which quickly became filled with waste. Lena and Katya endured the foul stench until Victor arrived to dispose of it. The girls spent days devising an escape plan, contemplating attacking him with the limited resources in the bunker. Victor provided them with only a dull knife, a boiler, and an electric stove for cooking. Despite planning to strike him with a hot frying pan, they realized their physical weakness compared to the powerful man. Fearful of his threats to cut off ventilation or fill the bunker with concrete, they complied with his demands on the red blanket to receive food and water. Victor visited them sporadically, demanding their bodies as if they were his possessions. The girls initially expected the other man from the car to join Victor, but it was only him. Eventually, they discovered that the young man, Losha, who had given them chocolate, was actually a woman named Yelena, Victor's accomplice. As time passed, the girls grew weaker due to lack of proper hygiene and inadequate water for cleaning. Their bodies and hair remained sticky and dirty, despite occasional provisions of new bed linen and clothing from Victor. After spending several months confined in the bunker, the girls completely lost their will to resist and abandoned any thoughts of escape. They understood that their efforts were futile, and their sole focus became survival, complying with the maniac's every whim. Victor, if one could even call him kind, started providing them with more new items. On New Year's, he brought them a bag of chocolates and various household necessities, such as a comb, hygiene products, and kitchen utensils. He even brought them playing cards. Additionally, he gifted Lena an English learning book and Katya a sketchbook with crayons. These items provided the girls with at least some form of diversion. Lena began studying English, while Katya indulged in her talent for drawing, adorning the bunker's dark and gloomy walls with vibrant and cheerful pictures. This creative outlet helped her maintain a glimmer of hope. One day, Victor brought them a stack of newspapers, and it was through these that they first learned about him. His name was Victor Mokov. But who was he? At the time of his crime, Victor was a 50-year-old man. He was born and raised in the small town of Skopino in western Russia. For most of his life, Victor worked as a skilled mechanic at a factory, earning a reputation as one of the best workers in his field. In his younger years, he appeared to be a decent individual. However, he struggled with social awkwardness and deep insecurities, which hindered his relationships with women. He married in his youth, but his wife left him after only 3 months for reasons unknown. From then on, he never formed any meaningful connections with women. The only person he truly loved was his mother, with whom he lived in a village house for the majority of their lives. She was a domineering figure who suppressed him in every possible way. It is likely that this oppressive environment contributed to Victor's descent into madness. Desperate to find companionship, he resorted to committing unspeakable acts, constructing a secret bunker and imprisoning innocent victims within. He meticulously planned this horrifying scheme over the course of many years, spending 3 years digging the bunker beneath his garage in his yard. The hidden bunker was expertly disguised, making it nearly impossible to locate. Situated 20 feet below ground level, it was sealed shut with a sturdy concrete door, rendering any cries for help futile. Victor had outfitted the bunker with all the essentials for the captive's survival, including electricity and ventilation. Inside, there were 2 beds, a table, chairs, and dishes. Victor's first abduction occurred half a year prior to his assault on Lena and Katya, targeting another teenage girl who managed to escape without involving the authorities. As a result, the maniac became more cautious, reducing the chances of rescue for his subsequent victims. The initial months of captivity were harrowing for the girls, but their situation deteriorated further when 17-year-old Lena discovered she was pregnant. Despite Lena's pleas to be released, Victor refused, fearing legal consequences. Consequently, Lena endured childbirth in unsanitary conditions without medical assistance. Throughout her pregnancy, Victor continued to exploit her, showing no concern for her well-being. As the birth neared, he provided the girls with a textbook on gynecology and obstetrics, tasking 15-year-old Katya with assisting in the delivery using limited supplies. Against all odds, a healthy baby boy was born. However, Victor showed no interest in his son, focusing solely on his own desires. 2 weeks later, he demanded the child from the girls, but they refused, fearing for the baby's safety. The infant remained with them in the squalid bunker for nearly 2 months until one day they awoke to find him missing. It was revealed that Victor drugged their water with sleeping pills and abducted the child. Nevertheless, he ultimately saved the boy's life. The deranged man left the baby at the entrance of an apartment complex. Lena mourned the loss of her son, yet the infant brought a glimmer of hope in their confined space. She found solace in the fact that he was now free, exposed to daylight, and receiving proper nourishment. An underground bunker was no place for a baby. Subsequently, Lena became pregnant once more, and the cycle repeated itself. Katya assisted her friend in delivering the second baby boy. The child resided with them for 4 months before they decided to hand him over to Victor. The maniac abandoned the child in another residential building. Both boys eventually ended up in foster care, unaware of their true parentage. Perhaps it was for the best. Imagine the shock of discovering that your father was a maniac and your mother was his captive. Fortunately, Katya was unable to conceive due to her young age when she entered the bunker. In contrast, Lena, who was older, faced the burden of multiple pregnancies. After 2 births, she found herself pregnant for the 3rd time, a terrifying prospect. Exhausted and fearing for her life, Lena struggled through the ordeal. By this time, Victor was growing weary of his captives and sought a new victim. One day, he introduced a 3rd bed into the bunker and instructed the girls to set up a 2nd tier above one of the beds. Moreover, Victor's vigilance waned as he believed his 2 captives were completely subdued and would not dare to escape again. Consequently, he made the decision to escort Katya out of the bunker and bring her to the house for a shower. He then took her out once more and instructed her to assist in drugging the 3rd victim, a student who had moved into Victor's residence and rented a room. The maniac was convinced that she would be an ideal addition to his group of captives. The girls recognized this as their opportunity for freedom. When Victor brought Katya to meet the new girl, Katya had already managed to write a letter detailing their situation and pleading for help from the police. She discreetly placed the note among the girl's belongings. That day, Victor's plan to add a third victim to his collection was thwarted. Katya returned to the bunker, leaving her and Lena to anxiously await the outcome. Would the girl discover their message? Would she seek help from the authorities? Their entire future hinged on it. They could hardly believe it when one day they heard unfamiliar voices. A stranger peered into the bunker and inquired, "Girls, are you alive?" Katya and Lena were overjoyed. After years of captivity, they finally saw sunlight. The police officers who rescued them were taken aback by the girl's extremely pale and emaciated appearance. Lena, who was 8 months pregnant, found herself unable to move. Viktor Mokov, the perpetrator, was apprehended and given a 17-year prison sentence. Surprisingly, he expressed disbelief upon hearing his punishment, claiming innocence by stating that he had provided for and cared for his captives. This deranged individual lacked any sense of guilt and firmly believed that his actions were justified. Meanwhile, his accomplice, Yelena, who disguised herself as a man to aid in luring girls into their trap, received a 5-year prison term. Viktor Mokov's mother, who resided with him during this time, maintained her ignorance regarding the presence of the captives in the bunker. However, one wonders if she truly had no suspicions, considering her son's frequent trips to the bunker with supplies. Although it is likely that she had some inkling of the truth, her guilt could not be proven, allowing her to remain free. As for the fate of the girls, after enduring 4 years of torment, Lena Samokina gave birth to her 3rd child, but what became of the child remains unknown. Some sources claim that the baby died, while others suggest that Lena abandoned the child. It is worth noting that Lena never attempted to reclaim the 2 boys she had given birth to while in captivity. Perhaps this decision was for the best, and it is not our place to pass judgment. Presently, one of these children is 20 years old, while the other is 22, and they likely have no knowledge of their true parentage. Surviving the years of horror with the maniac was an arduous task for Lena. She made the choice to bury the past and refuse to engage with the media. It is known that she pursued a career as an English teacher and opted not to have any more children. On the other hand, Katya Martinova, who found herself trapped in the bunker at the age of 14, managed to continue her education. She discovered the strength to move forward and even regained her trust in men. Katya has given birth to 2 children, a daughter and a son. Presently, she is happily married and willingly shares her tragic experience in interviews with journalists. Katya Martinova, the author of the book Confession of a Dungeon Prisoner, aims to provide moral support to women who have endured violence. She is an extraordinary woman who managed to survive the horrors she faced while still holding on to her belief in goodness. Despite enduring years of imprisonment, she has remained a compassionate individual. Today, she dedicates herself to assisting victims of violence. Although she may occasionally experience a negative mood, reflecting on her time in the bunker reminds her that her current problems are insignificant. She encourages people to cherish life, freedom, and moments of happiness. Remarkably, despite enduring absolute hell, she did not succumb to despair and continued to live. I believe there is much to be learned from this remarkable woman. Katya is now 37 years old, while Lena is 40. They have attempted to forget their traumatic experience. However, they were forced to confront it once again when Viktor Mokov, their tormentor, was released from prison in 2021 after serving 17 years in prison. He even granted interviews to journalists. It is undeniable that he is a completely immoral individual who fails to comprehend his guilt. He has never expressed remorse for his actions. During the interviews, he even made jokes about wanting to engage with one of the girls again to assist her in giving birth. When looking into his shameless eyes, it is challenging to believe that he possesses any trace of humanity. Do you believe he deserves to be free?
Help me, I'm Amanda Berry. police, fire, or ambulance?
I'm the police.
Okay, and what's going on there?
I've been kidnapped and I've been missing for 10 years and I'm here. I'm free now. Off the street, I'm using the phone.
Okay, stay there with those neighbors. Talk to the police when they get there.
Okay.
Okay, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, talk to the police when they get there.
Okay, I'm on the way right now.
We're going to send them as soon as we get a car open.
No, I need them now before we get back.
All right, we're sending them, okay?
Okay, I mean, like,
Who's the guy who's the guy who went out?
His name is Castro.
All right, how old is he?
He's like 52.
All right, and
I'm Amanda Berry. I've been on the news for the last 10 years.
Okay, I got that here. I already. And you said, what was his name again?
Castro.
Gina DeJesus, Michelle Knight, and Amanda Berry experienced a horrifying ordeal when they were abducted in Cleveland and forced to endure a decade of torment in Ariel Castro's torture chamber. Castro subjected them to sexual assault and torture until they finally managed to escape in 2013. Born in 1960 in Puerto Rico, Castro's descent into depravity did not occur overnight. It all began with his abusive marriage to Grimilda Figueroa, which was marked by violence and instability. After threatening to kill Figueroa and their 4 children, physically abusing her, and causing severe injuries such as fracturing her nose and dislocating her shoulder multiple times, she divorced him in the mid-1990s. Court records from 2005 revealed that Castro frequently abducted their daughters and kept them away from Figueroa. Castro later admitted that his heinous acts were driven by opportunity. He encountered these girls and found himself in the perfect circumstances to seize them for his own twisted purposes. "When I picked up the first victim," he confessed in court, "I didn't even plan it that day." He used various manipulative tactics to lure each victim, such as offering a pet, providing a ride, or seeking help in finding a missing child. Exploiting the fact that they were familiar with him and one of his children, Castro was able to gain their trust. Michelle Knight became his first victim on August 23, 2002, when she was on her way to a social service meeting related to regaining custody of her infant son. Unable to find the facility, Knight fell into Castro's clutches and remained trapped in his home for the next 11 years. Amanda Berry, on the other hand, encountered Castro while seeking a ride after finishing her shift at Burger King in 2003. Recognizing him and his van, she unwittingly became his next victim and endured captivity until 2013. The final victim, Gina DeJesus, was only 14 years old and had been friends with Castro's daughter, Arlene. Like the others, she was ensnared in Castro's house for a decade. The lives of Ariel Castro's 3 victims were filled with tragedy and unimaginable suffering. The captives were initially confined in the basement, but eventually Castro permitted them to live upstairs, although they remained isolated behind closed doors. They were occasionally given opportunities to smuggle food. Castro rarely cleaned the plastic buckets they used as toilets. To further torment his hostages, Castro enjoyed playing mind games with them. Sometimes he would leave their door unlocked, tempting them with the illusion of freedom, only to capture and beat them later. The women imprisoned on Seymour Avenue watched as the world passed them by, year after year. During this time, the 3 women learned how to navigate their relationship with Castro, how to understand the dynamics of the household, and how to hide their true emotions. They recognized that Castro was primarily a sadist who derived pleasure from their suffering. They developed the skill of concealing their emotions at all times in order to keep their misery hidden. They continued in this manner for years, until Amanda Berry discovered she was pregnant as a result of the years of sexual assault. The arrival of a healthy baby brought them immense relief and joy. Knight, on the other hand, faced severe mistreatment from Castro. He would withhold food from her, restrain her to a support beam in the basement, and subject her to regular beatings and rape. According to Knight, she became pregnant at least 5 times, but Castro prevented any of the pregnancies from reaching full term by inflicting severe abuse that permanently damaged her stomach. Meanwhile, Amanda Berry and her daughter, Jocelyn, were confined in a small room that was sealed off from the outside world. Despite their captivity, they would pretend to go to school, with Berry striving to maintain some semblance of normalcy. The women's imprisonment seemed never-ending, and with each passing year, their hope of ever being free diminished. However, on May 6, 2013, an unexpected source of courage emerged. Little Jocelyn was the one who initiated the daring escape. She said, "Mom, Daddy's car is gone." My heart started racing because I thought, should I take the risk? If I'm going to do it, I need to do it now, recounted Amanda. Surprisingly, she discovered her bedroom door was unlocked. She hurried downstairs. The front door was open, but there was a second door padlocked shut. Nevertheless, Amanda managed to stick out her arm. So I'm waving my arm and I'm like, "Somebody please, please help me. I'm Amanda Berry, please," she recalled. She was too scared to go back for Gina and Michelle. A neighbor saw Amanda outside but hesitated to intervene. That's when Charles Ramsey arrived. He tried pulling on the door, but he couldn't open it, so he kicked it and said, "There you go. Keep kicking it and you can get out," Amanda described. With bold determination, Amanda kicked her way to freedom and emerged, holding on to her frightened daughter.
Hey, Charles, let me talk to you. I'm talking with Charles Ramsey. He's a neighbor. Walk me through again what happened this afternoon. You heard screaming.
Heard screaming. I meet my McDonald's. I come outside. I see this girl going nuts, trying to get out of her house. So I go on the porch.
Okay.
I go on the porch, and she says, "Help me get out. I've been in here a long time." So I figured it's a domestic violence dispute. So I open the door, and we can't get in that way because how the door is, it's so much that a body can't fit through, only your hand. So we kick the bottom, and she comes out with the little girl, and she says, "Call 911. My name is Amanda Berry."
Now, did you know who that was when she said that?
When she told me, it didn't register until I got the call in 911, and I'm like, I'm calling the 911 for Amanda Berry? I thought this girl was dead. You know what I mean? And she got on the phone and she said, "Yes, this is me." And the detective, Cook, right here, Detective Gregory Cook says, "Charles, do you know who you rescued?" I said.
Now, and when did you see Gina?
About 5.
We're good.
So about 5 minutes after the police got here, see, the girl Amanda told the police, "I ain't just the only ones. It's some more girls up in that house." So they went up there, 30, 40 deep, and when they came out was just astonishing because I thought they were going to come up with nothing. I figured, whoever she was, and like I say, my neighbor, you got some big testicles to pull this off, bro, because we see this dude every day. Every day.
How long have you lived here?
I've been here a year.
Okay.
You see where I'm coming from?
Right.
I barbecue with this dude. We eat ribs and whatnot and listen to salsa music. You see where I'm coming from?
Yeah. And you had no indication that there was anything going on?
Bro, not a clue that girl was in that house or anybody else was in there against their will, because how he is he just comes out to his backyard, plays with the dogs, tinker with his cars and motorcycles, goes back in the house. So he's somebody that you look away because he's not doing nothing but the average stuff. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's nothing exciting about him. Well, until the day.
What was the reaction on the girls' faces? I can't imagine to see the sunlight, to be around
Bro,
people.
I knew something was wrong when a little pretty white girl ran into a black man's arms. Something is wrong here. Dead giveaway. Dead giveaway.
Charles, thank you very much.
Dead giveaway.
Thank you very much for your time. And
either she homeless or she got problems. That's the only reason why she run to a black man.
Charles, thank you for being there, man.
She managed to contact the police, who came to her rescue. Knight and DeJesus were also rescued from the house. It was the first time in 10 years that they had felt the Ohio sun on their skin. Castro was arrested and faced charges of aggravated murder, rape, and kidnapping. During his trial, he portrayed himself as a victim of his sex addiction. He was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years. He spent a short time in prison under much better conditions than those he had subjected his victims to. On September 3, 2013, He took his own life in his jail cell by hanging himself with his bed sheets. The atrocities committed by Ariel Castro against these women were unforgivable. They did not deserve the horrors they endured.